Hello viewers, welcome to the series Bhaskar's Insurance for You and Me. In continuation of our last episode on decoding your insurance policy, we will discuss in detail about the other components of an insurance policy. In case you have not gone through the last episode, please go through the same episode number 31 before proceeding with the current episode so that the context for the current will be more clear. The important aspect one needs to examine in the insurance policy is the coverage provided by the policy to the subject matter. Depending on the product, this information about the coverage may be shown under different headings like scope of cover, benefits covered, coverage, schedule of benefits, what we cover, insured event, or sometimes without any specific heading under the operative clause, which normally appears in the second pair of the policy wordings. So in order to understand the coverage provided under the policy, you need to look under any of these headings shown in the policy document. In this part of the policy, we need to specifically understand what kind of losses are covered and what are the perils covered. The kind of losses covered would depend on the type of insurance product we are talking about. I'll give few examples. Under the property insurance like fire policy in whatever name it is sold, burglary policy or money policy, etc., loss or damage to the subject matter is covered. Under health insurance policies, cover is for medical expenses. Under personal accident policies, cover is for compensation for a physical injury. Similarly, some other policies cover financial losses. Regarding the next point, that is what are the perils covered, there are broadly two types of policies available: named peril policies and all risk policies. Under named peril policies, the perils which are covered under the policy are listed in the policy document itself. Few examples like burglary insurance policy covers losses caused by burglary and robbery. In respect of personal accident policy, injury caused by accident only is covered. So health insurance policy covers only illness or accident. So the burglary, robbery, accidents, illness, these are all treated as the insured perils for these policies. Under all risk policies, the policies cover losses due to any fortuitous peril except the perils which are specifically excluded under the policy exclusion section. So the third element that is specified under the coverage is the circumstance of loss which is covered. For example, under a health insurance policy, it is mentioned in the policy document that the cover is provided if disease or injury requires hospitalization for treatment at any hospital or nursing home in India as inpatient. So these are all the circumstances of loss which is covered under a health policy. Similarly, under a personal accident policy, the cover is for any bodily injury sustained if such injury leads to death or disability within a period of 12 months or any other duration based on the policy type of the occurrence of injury. So the next aspect that is generally specified under the policy is the different heads of compensation covered under the policy. For example, if you look at health insurance, the different heads of compensation included are medical expenses towards room and ICU charges, surgeon, anesthetist, medical practitioner, consultant, specialist fees, anesthesia, blood, oxygen, operation theater charges, surgical appliances, medicine cost, dialysis charges, chemotherapy, radiotherapy expenses, cost of artificial limbs, etc., etc. These are all the different heads of compensation payable under the health policy. Similarly, if you look at under a personal accident policy, the cover is for specified and opted disabilities. For example, the policy may cover death or permanent total disability or permanent partial disability, etc., as opted by the insured. Under burglary insurance, the cover may be specified as loss of or damage to contents or any part of contents caused by actual or attempted burglary and or robbery, and the property damage caused by actual or attempted burglary. So the different heads of compensation that is payable in case of a loss under those products are defined and in this part of the policy document. The next clause which we look at is the basis of indemnity clause. It specifies as to on what basis the loss amount is determined under the policy. For example, under health policy, it is mentioned that the policy will indemnify reasonable and customary medical expenses incurred subject to availability of sum insured and applicable sublimits. So the policy will pay the incurred medical expenses subject to the policy limits. Similarly, if you look at motor policy under own damage section, it may be specified that the company will indemnify against loss or damage to the vehicle subject to deduction of depreciation as detailed in the wordings. Similarly, under the third party liability section, it is specified that the company will indemnify the insured against legal liabilities in respect of death or bodily injury or damage to property. So that is, the actual legal liability amounts are payable under the policy. Under a personal accident policy, it is mentioned that the company shall pay the percentage of sum insured stated in the policy depending on the type and extent of disability. So generally, a table of disabilities and the percentage of sum insured payable are printed in the policy. In some other products like different types of fire insurance products, the basis of indemnity may be shown under a different heading known as what we pay. How the loss payable is calculated for total losses and also for partial losses is all described under this head. So there is also a separate section under each of the insurance policies under the heading definitions. This section provides the specific meanings for different terms used in the policy document. So while going through the coverage portion, we need to understand them in conjunction with the meanings elaborated under the definitions for accurate and better clarity of their meanings. Also under the coverage section, we can also find details of the additional covers which are provided as part of the inbuilt cover or as an extra cover which the proposer has asked for. For example, the clauses like pre-hospitalization medical expenses, post-hospitalization expenses, daycare treatments, domiciliary hospitalization, organ donor expenses cover, etc. will appear under health policies. Similarly, the cover for valuable contents, loss of rent and rent for alternative accommodation, personal accident cover, etc. are specified under fire insurance products. Accidental medical reimbursement cover, cost of cremation cover, accident weekly benefit cover, etc. are the additional coverages which may be shown under a personal accident policy. So these are some of the examples of additional covers, details of which you can find in the coverage section of the insurance policy. So in a sense, reading through the coverage section mainly provides detailed information about type of losses covered, perils against which the cover is provided, circumstances of loss included, different heads of compensation included, basis of indemnity, that is how the claim amount is to be calculated, what are the additional covers included. So these are the main aspects which are covered in the coverage section. In other words, understanding the coverage portion makes it clear as to what losses are covered under what circumstances and to what extent. So terms like indemnity, peril, etc. we have already discussed in our earlier videos, and hence I am not detailing here once again. The next component of the policy, that is sum insured, it is an important term in an insurance policy. And this term sum insured is replaced with terms like insured's declared value in case of motor insurance, own damage section, and with the term like limit of indemnity in liability insurance sections or policies. This represents the maximum liability under the insurance policy, that is sum insured represents the maximum liability of an insurer under the policy. The value of sum insured is indicated in the policy schedule, as we have already seen in our last episode. In many of the insurance products, these terms are defined and explained under the definition section. If the policy has many sections or many covers, as we have seen under the coverage section, the sum insured values are shown separately for each section or each cover. Sometimes the sum insured for some of the covers may be shown as a sublimit on the policy sum insured or as a percentage of policy sum insured. So understanding this term is very important in understanding the maximum coverage the policy provides for the policy period for every event or for every claim. Another important information we must check in the insurance policy is if there is any amount of claim that needs to be borne by the customer. This portion of claim that needs to be borne by the insured may be specified by different names in different products. It may be specified differently in different products, like certain fixed amount, or it's as a percentage of sum insured, or as a number of days, or as percentage of claim amount. These are all the different ways how the deductible amount is represented in the policy. And this term deductible itself is known differently in different insurance products. It could be called as a deductible, a compulsory deductible, voluntary deductible, or excess, copayment, or mandatory copayment. So the explanation of these terms will appear under the definitions part of the policy wording, and the actual applicable values would appear in the policy schedule. So searching for these terms and understanding its impact on the claim amount will help you to fairly estimate the out-of-pocket claims outgo for you and help avoid surprises when these amounts are deducted by the insurers. Every insurance policy has certain circumstances under which the losses are not included under the policy. These are called as exclusions. The exclusions help in bringing clarity on policy cover by elaborately describing what is not intended to be covered under the policy, and hence it is important for the policyholder to understand them. In many of the insurance products, the exclusions occupy a very large portion. The purpose of elaborating it so much is to ensure that the limitations to the policy cover are clearly stated so that the insured is aware about what is not covered and provide clarity for evaluating the claim. The reasons for imposing exclusions in an insurance policy include elimination of predictable losses like wear and tear not being covered, avoiding cover for certain acts which are against public policy like drunken driving exclusion, etc., or to exclude large losses like war to keep the premium at an affordable level, and to prevent adverse selection like in the case of waiting periods for certain diseases in health policies, etc. These exclusions could be pertaining to the property which is not covered, perils which are not covered, or period of insurance during which the cover is not valid, or certain conditions under which the loss is not payable. So all these clauses, they appear under the head exclusions or losses excluded under the policy wording. There are certain exclusions which are applicable for most of the insurance products, like exclusions for war, nuclear radiation, etc. There are many other exclusions which are specific for the particular line of business. For example, all health insurance products will have exclusion relating to pre-existing disease, waiting period for certain diseases, etc. Whereas motor insurance policies will have exclusions relating to influence of alcohol. So the exclusions can also be analyzed under two broad categories. One is the exclusions which are applicable for the entire policy coverage, the general exclusions, and exclusions which are applicable for certain sections of cover alone, where the policy provides cover under different sections. So one has to clearly understand the distinction when you go through the exclusions component under the policy document. And the exclusions can also be seen as those which cannot be waived or those which can be waived by payment of additional premium. So if there are any exclusions where You can buy back by paying extra premium. You can do that by understanding what is covered in those exclusions. The next important aspect of the policy document is the policy conditions, which appear in the document. There are different types of policy conditions. The major conditions of policy can be classified into different categories. The first category of conditions is the conditions precedent to the contract. The fulfillment of these conditions is essential for the contract to be valid. So the conditions dealing with the disclosure of all material information before entering into the contract, conditions dealing with maintaining the risk management methods, etc., fall under this category. For example, one such condition reads as, the policy shall be void and all premium paid thereon shall be forfeited to the company in the event of misrepresentation, misdescription, or non-disclosure of material fact by the policyholder. This is an example of a condition precedent to the contract. The next category is conditions applicable during the contract. These conditions actually specify the policyholder's duties that are to be discharged while the insurance policy is in force. It is very essential for the policyholder to know these and follow to avoid hardships if any claim happens. For example, one condition reads as, you must keep your home building and home contents in good condition and well maintained. You must ensure that the structure of your home building does not have any faults or defects that are visible and material that will aggravate loss or damage to the home building in the event an insured peril occurs. The third category of conditions is conditions for renewal of the contract. These conditions specify under what circumstances the policy renewals can be denied and also what additional benefits might accrue to the policy holder if the policy is continuously renewed. These also provide information on the grace period for premium payment, cumulative bonus, and no claim bonus in certain products, etc. For example, in respect of health insurance policies, you may find the following condition. At the end of the policy period, the policy shall terminate and can be renewed within the grace period of 30 days to maintain continuity benefits without break in policy. Coverage is not available during the grace period. So this particular condition talks about the grace period available for the renewal of the policy and also what happens to the risk during the grace period. The next class of conditions are conditions for cancellation of the contract. These conditions specify details of notice period for policy cancellation, how the premium refund is calculated for the cancelled period, implication of any claim on cancellation process, etc. For example, one condition specifies that the policy holder may cancel this policy by giving 15 days written notice, and in such an event, the company shall refund premium for the unexpired policy period as per table shown below. This is an example of the condition for cancellation of the contract. The next category is conditions when a claim arises. These conditions provide information on the procedure to be followed by the policyholder if there is any occurrence that might give rise to a claim. These conditions include the timelines to be followed for the different steps in claim process, steps to be taken by the policyholder after occurrence of a claim to protect the policyholder's rights, moratorium clause, condition relating to fraud, list of documents to be submitted for claims, etc. So the policy conditions pertaining to claims also deal with the principles which impact the claim computation, like say pro rata condition of average, contribution clause applicability, etc. So as an example, one of the conditions under this category reads as claim for pre-hospitalization medical expenses and post-hospitalization medical expenses to be submitted to us within 30 days of the completion of post-hospitalization treatment. So this condition talks of the timelines for submission of pre and post-hospitalization expenses bills under a health insurance policy. The other category is conditions for grievance redressal mechanism. So the different avenues available for grievance redressal for the policyholder is detailed under these conditions. The contact details of the insurer's grievance redressal cell, procedure for grievance redressal by escalating to IRDAI, detailed information on the ombudsman offices where the unresolved grievances can be taken up are all provided under these conditions. The policy condition providing a mechanism for dispute resolution between insurer and insured regarding the claim amount through arbitration clause also falls under this category. As an example for this condition, the condition may read in some of the insurance policies like, in case of a grievance, the insured person or the policyholder can contact us with the details through our website at so-and-so, toll-free number of so-and-so, or email address so-and-so. Insured person may also approach the grievance cell at any of the company's branches with the details of grievance, etc., etc. So the full wordings I have shown on the slide. So once you go through the policy document, specifically looking for these topics, the topics which we have discussed so far, you will have a substantial understanding of the policy, which will help in dealing with any claim and insurers suitably to claim your rightful due. It is also worth noting that the summary of coverage applicable to you is also provided in the customer information sheet, which is also known as CIS. Since I already dealt with the contents of the customer information sheet in the context of motor insurance in my earlier episode, I'm not discussing the same once again here. So in our two episodes, the current one and the last one, we have discussed on the various components of an insurance policy and how to go about understanding the important sections of the policy for easy and clear understanding of your insurance. Trust this will be of immense help to you in understanding your policy and will help you in dealing with your insurer in case of any claim. In the next episode, I'll come back to you with another interesting and useful topic on general insurance. Until then, thank you and bye from Bhaskar.